Hi, I'm Phil, and today we're going to look at the Grove MP3 player, and this is version 4, the very latest from Seeed Studio. So let's have a look at the unit before we have a look at the latest project. So this is what it looks like on top. It uses, just like the other MP3 players before it, it uses the UART interface. And it comes from the same company with the WT2003S-16S. So it's slightly different from version 3. And the package comes with a speaker, and that brings up the price up to $12.90 US dollars. And while that's quite expensive for an MP3 player, you do get a audio amplifier included in the electronics, and you also get the speaker. So it's not too bad. I bought a few of these for the STEM club, and they just arrived a couple of days ago. And this is what you can do with the unit. I'm interested in making a MP3 player for people with disabilities, either people who are autistic or elders that if they have dementia, we can add simple controls for them to operate the unit. And it'll play MP3 formats and WAV formats, and all you have to do is put those onto an SD card, and there is an SD card reader on the unit itself. So hardware wise, the specifications, so you can see here that it's uses file formats. Besides the MP3 WAV, it also supports WMA, and it will support cards up to 32 gigabytes with various sample rates. So looking at the block diagram, here we have it over here, and the interface for our speaker is on the left, and on the right we have our 3.5 audio jack, and I'll be using that on this project. Okay, so one problem is that on the wiki they show the wrong diagram for the chip. And the schematic, you can see the schematic here. It's a little bit more complex compared to the earlier models, because it also includes the power amplifier, which is over here. So you've got enough current to drive either the external speaker or a speaker connected to the 3.5 millimeter jack. Let's go and have a look at some of my projects. I started off with the demonstration on the wiki, and that works fine. So the Arduino demonstrations, I won't cover everything here, but this is what the desktop arrangement looked like. So I've got the Grove MP3 connected to a speaker, and it's also connected to the UART port on a Lotus computer. So that computer is Arduino UNO compatible. And the code for that, well, you can have a look at it on the wiki, but here it is here. Quite simple, and most of the code is just simply parsing instructions that you send via the serial port to control the player, and you can put it into any of the 1 of 5 modes. Okay, so that worked quite nicely, and I also ported it to a Arduino Nano compatible, the Seeeduino Nano. So that's quite nice. So the project that I want to focus on today is the UI Flow project. So we'll have a look at the project in detail. This is what it looks like on my desktop. And you can see the other two projects. So on the right, we've got the Arduino projects, and on the bottom left, we have the Core 2 computer hosting the MP3 player. So just have a looking at that in detail. The top ones are the Arduino, and here is our Core 2 arrangement. So you can see you can put in the buttons. The top shows the interface painted on the screen, and on the bottom we can insert our micro SD card. And this is the user interface for someone with disabilities. Now remember, it's a prototype, so you probably use larger buttons on a box, and this is all they need to use, while the carer has access to a richer interface using the touch buttons on the screen. And that's what it looks like on the desktop. So what's the objective? Let's zoom up a little bit so you can see in greater detail. The idea is that I want to test commands on the Core 2 using the UART interface. So I'm going to play selected songs, and I want to use controls like previous song, play, stop, next song, and select the mode. I want to find out, so this is part of discovery, exploring the latest version of the MP3 player. I want to see what limitations there are and see if I can create a better environment for the client. But I want to create an environment for the carer, the client, and also the person who's developing the unit. So there's a bit of debug information also provided on the screen. So it's got to be easy to use. And an example of that is I'm using want to use the scroll to set the volume. Okay, and I want to see what the status is of play and change the mode with a slider control and get plenty of feedback. Hardware-wise, we're going to use the from Seeeduino, the Grove MP3, and that should be version 4. So we might actually change that to version 4. And we've already seen the details on that. For the N5 stack, I'm using the core computer, and I'm also using the battery bottom with the dual and the scroll unit. So we might get rid of that redundancy there. We don't need both of those. So the scroll unit looks like this, and that's going to be used for volume control. And the overall connections, we'll see this in a minute, how that's put together. But this is the overall configuration. And I'm using a donor amplifier, external amplifier with the speaker, and that is connected by the 3.5mm socket and cable. Our communications protocol. So this is a bit different from the previous version. So the commands for sending are similar to these ones here. You can change the baud rate, and in the manual for the chip, they go through what the communications protocol is for that. And this is how I've implemented that on the UI flow on the Core 2 computer. So it's quite simple to play it. You will need to implement that instruction, the pause, play, the stop, and the next volume control. And what's interesting about all of these, there's no checksum. So it actually makes the software a lot easier. And you can get receive information. Most of the feedback control is just a simple OK message, but it can be quite useful when it's playing in the random mode to know which song, and then you can synchronize the messages on the user interface. Software-wise, we select a user interface, we paint that on the screen, and we select the dual button and the scroll. And code-wise, we're using UI Flow. So we'll go across and have a look at that now. So let's have a look at the hardware configuration and construction. So we start off with a M5 Stack Core 2 computer. And we add the bottom to it that has the battery. And besides the battery, it gives us access to 2 additional ports. That's ports B and C for serial communications, and also for the GPIO port. And we need a PC that allows us to do all the programming and download our program to our Core 2 computer. And on port C, the serial port, we add our Grove MP3 version 4. And the dual buttons for play and stopping the music, they're added to port B. And to port A, we add a scroll unit, which is gives us access to volume control, both up and down. And to the M5 stack computer, we are to the MP3 module, we add an external audio. So we have the donor unit added here. And now we look at the programming. And this is just one example of the AT commands in repeat mode that allows us to select one of the 5 modes. So let's have a look at the software. We're using the UI Flow program from M5 Stack, and that's available on their website. So it's got 3 components. On the far left, we have the UI, the user interface, and I just simply paint that. So if I want a label, I just go down and select a label and put it on the screen here, like I've just done here, and I can fill out the form with that label. And I've done the same for all of the other devices. So we'll just get rid of that one. And so we've got controls for the carer. So this MP3 player is for someone with disabilities, and it's got the user interface divided into the complicated area for the carer, and for the person who's going to use it, they have external hardware for volume control and for playing. So the units for doing that are on the bottom. And when you add these additional units, the commands that are available to you come up here. Finishing off the user interface on the screen, we've got previous track, next track, play, and stop. The stop is actually pause and play. So we've got the top area, and we can change the mode in the middle here with a slider. So if we look at that slider, you'll notice we've got the positions of where it is, the color of the slider, and also the maximum value. So we've only got 5 modes for our MP3 player. So it's actually gone outside at the moment. So we'll put it back in. And we've got additional commands from buttons A, B, and C on the bottom. So let's have a look at the overall code is on the right, and we'll zoom in and have a look at that. So we just move across. So you can see on setup right on the start here, we're configuring the UART port, which is our serial port on the Core 2, and we're setting it up for mode 1, but we can change that later on. Giving it a little bit of time, and then setting up the maximum number of modes to 5 and the initial mode to 1. And the slider, we set that up at the maximum number of modes, and we then set up our variables for volume and the scroll and the song number. So we're setting up for a maximum of 20 songs on the SD card. And then we initialize our scroll and set up the volume. So this is a typical command that goes to our MP3 player, and the communications protocol is based on AT commands. And here we're setting the volume to, we convert the volume parameter to a string and combine that with the AT command. And in the loop, we just simply check to see if there's any messages coming from the MP3 player. And if that they are, we'll show that on label 5. So label 5 is over here. So there's label 6, there's label 5. So any messages will appear at this position on the screen. Label 6 is over here, and that's just going to show us the song number. And then we process the encoder value and map that onto the volume. And we check that if it's at the maximum volume's 31. We don't want to go beyond that. And we check for the minimum 0, and that will turn off the volume. And when we've satisfied with that, we then write the volume to our MP3 player by the AT command. And then we show the volume value and the scroll value on labels 8 and 9. And they can be removed later on. They're just there for debugging. So when we press button A, we can play the tune with our song number. And button B goes on to the next, and button C just increments the song number so we can select the next song if we want to. The slider changes the mode, and you can see how we're doing that over here with the event for our slider control. The push buttons on the screen, you can see them here, button 0, 1, and they're all quite similar. For example, button 1, which is, which one is it? It's our previous one. So this button here is button 1, and you can see how I'm processing that. I'm putting a message in the command area, which is on label 4, giving some feedback that it's the previous one has been selected. And when it is the previous one, we then decrement the song number and check that. And then when we're happy with all that, we then send the command to our MP3 player on the serial port with a AT command. And the others are quite similar. So eventually we're sending AT commands, and next is the same. And the pause play, there's the command for that one. And we're assigning different colors. So when it's stopped, it'll be red and it'll be blue, and that goes on to the RGB LED on our scroll unit. And that's just about it. I think that's the whole lot. Okay, and that's the software for our MP3 player hosted on the Core 2 computer using UIFlow software. So now that the software has been constructed and downloaded to the Core 2 computer, we can now test it. And the operation is that we can set the mode, as we've previously seen. We've got 5 possibilities, and we can play it with the blue button or the P button on our external dual buttons. And to stop it, we use the stop button. And for volume change, and it worked quite well. So all the objectives that I wanted to meet, I've done all that, which is really good. I guess some of the extensions could be to have more than the one folder. At the moment, I just have everything in the root directory. So to add more songs, I'm going to explore accessing the folders and putting more songs. So on a 32 gigabyte micro SD card, you can fill that with lots of tunes. And for references, go across to Seeed Studio, where you can see the unit. So this is what it looks like on their website. And we just go back to our mind map. The wiki, it supports quite a good wiki. Except there are a couple of mistakes in that wiki, and I'll just point out a couple. As you scroll down, this is the first mistake. And there's no microphone on it, and they got the wrong chip. And if you scroll down further, they also reference the unit as incorrectly referenced. But the software works, so there's no problems in that. You can go across to the M5 stack where you can get the peripherals and the Core 2 computer. So we can have a look at that. Just opening up the stack now. There's the Core 2 computer. You can see it's quite expensive, but there's quite a lot on there. And it has a very rich user interface with the touch screen and a fairly good wiki. The software I'm using also comes. So if you want to access that, you go to Software, UIFlow, and get started. And you can then select the unit that you want to program. Stay tuned and I'll give you a desktop demonstration. This is the latest Grove MP3 player from Seeed Studio, and here I've got it mounted on a Lotus, which is a Arduino UNO compatible computer. And it's also compatible with the Seeeduino Nano, which is Arduino Nano compatible. And in these cases, the software was straight out of the wiki from Seeed Studio, and it used the Arduino IDE. On my next project, I've transferred the computer to an M5 stack Core 2 computer, and I've got 3 peripherals connected. Port A, this is where the scroll button, so if you want volume control, use the scroll button, and to start and stop are on the one dual button, and that goes into the Core 2. And so we've got 3 peripherals there. Now, the way it's been organized on this computer, I've used UIFlow for the software, but it's partitioned the user interface for a person with disabilities. And all they've got to do is just press the start button, which is P for play and S for stop, and the volume control. But the carer has a much richer interface on the screen. So if we look at the screen over here, we've got a repetition of the controls on the other peripherals, and we've got next and previous, but we also have the mode control, and we can select the song number. So let's have a look at that. First of all, we'll start off with a simple interface. So if we want to play, just press the play button, and the light comes on to indicate a change of mode. We want to stop, just press the stop button. And the carer can use the touch screen, and perhaps go to the next song. And stop, and we can change the mode. So if we go to random, which is on mode 4, that will play the songs in random, and we can then just play again. Now, what's also interesting is that we have, we'll just turn that off. What's also interesting is that we have feedback. So you'll notice this column here tells us the state of the encoder or the scroll. So as I change the scroll, it will also go up and down. Now we can change the volume control, so we'll start it again. That's only on 22, but I'm changing the encoder value now, increasing it or decreasing it. It's very low at the moment. So that's our volume control. And I'll stop it. And so we've got feedback for the developer, and they can see the communications messages between the MP3 player and the Core 2 computer. And that's the Core 2 computer hosting the Grove MP3 player.